Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brownstone. I am your host, Dr. Michele, and you're listening to Numbers Don't Lie, where you learn to get out your feelings so you can make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and your business. On today's show, I think this is a special treat because whenever you meet, just first of all, good people, passionate about their work, and doing great work in the community, like you already know you're going to have a great time. So that's what we are preparing. We have our special guest, Mark and Mahaya Gaskins from the Village Method. They are phenomenal, doing great work in the community with our children. I know what I mean. And I want them to come and share about the work that they're doing, how they're using data to drive it forward, to tell their story, and to impact change in their local community. And y'all, let me tell you, they're not just going to be local, they're going to be names you're going to hear all over. So welcome to the Numbers Don't Lie stage, Mark and Mahaya Gaskins.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank
Hey
you for having
y'all.
us.
Thank you so
Happy to
much
be
for
here.
joining us. I know, I'm so happy that you're here. So could you guys tell us a little about yourselves? How did you get here?
That's a wonderful question. And thank you for taking the time to hear our story. We're so excited to be a part of your work. We appreciate the things that you do around data and all the other stuff. Our story really is a love story, and it really begins in a place of love uh, from our parents, our family, how they raised us, things that we received um, at home. I was thinking about it, coming into this meeting, just the amount of things that our families poured into us from Mark and his church, his father being a pastor, the church family, my grandmother, parents, aunts, all the folks, uncle. Um, I think as we grew up, there were things that in the suburbs, living outside of the San Francisco, Oakland Bay area, we had in our homes. But when we went into our schools and places that we went outside of our homes, there was a lot of lacking. Even though we lived in communities that others might see as affluent, communities that had a lot of resources in the Silicon Valley, there was still a lot of lack when it came to how we were received as Black children. And then when we met in high school and then started dating in college, our first conversation really was around wanting to create something that spoke to the things that we did and did not have as children, things that we felt all Black children should have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So our work began out of that place and then grew as I had opportunity to do some amazing studies and college and amazing mentors and my upbringing through school and then into my career. I got an opportunity to be exposed to Black excellence from the school that I worked in as an elementary teacher to the Black consulting firm that I worked in. I was always wondering and thinking, now, how do we bring this type of work back to the community that we know, that we love? So the work that we were doing in our church at growing up, that Mark grew up in, and then I joined, there were so many children. And there were so many children that had so much of the things that either I was creating or that we thought they needed to have at the school. So that's, the beginning of our work. Do you want to take it from there?
I mean, you said most of it, babe.
Oh.
What I'll say is growing up in a suburb and being one of the only Black boys, Black students in my class from kindergarten going through 12th grade. It wasn't a great journey. It was a rough journey.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes I didn't see myself. I didn't see, my culture. There was no real celebration of who I was or where I came from. And so I didn't like school, and yes, I got referrals and I had the typical things that happen with when you look at Black boys in schools. And I graduated from high school and kind of reluctantly went into college. But when I met my bride, when I met my lady, a new epiphany kind of came to me, and I realized, like, wow, I wasn't alone.
Mm-hmm.
That I actually was a number of millions. I'm a percentage of so many other young Black boys who are going through the public educational system and feeling unsafe in school, not feeling welcomed in school, not feeling culturally affirmed in school, not just Black boys, but just Black youth in general. And so that was what also kind of sparked our conversation, my curiosity, and just a pure out desire to see, well, can we do something better? Can we be a change, right? And can we implement something? Because you get some folks that really get excited and motivated, and they hear a great speech, and you got Martin Luther King Day, and they go, "Oh, I'll do something," and then it's over,
Right. Yeah.
and it's like, where is the sustaining element that keeps the village together? Right? What is that sustaining element that says to a child, I'm not just here with you for this year, I'm going to stay with you throughout your academic journey? Where is it? And so that's what, fast forward to today, what we're celebrating 10 years. So, this is we're in our 10th year, and that's really, what brought us here is all of those things, our personal background, our experiences, seeing the hurt, but truly believing that God invented us to do this work and to be a change in this world for our youth and for just really all youth. It's not just for Black youth, because we realize that if you don't know the beauty of African ancestry, if you don't know who created so much of this foundation in this world, you're missing out. You're missing,
I loved, first of all, I love that it's a love story in the mix. Like that always makes a good story. But Maher, both of you said something that was really powerful. Maher, I love how you said you experienced these things, but you didn't hoard that to yourself. You could have been like, oh, this is for me and my family, we're going to just, but you're like, no, I got to bring this back. And I love that. And then you put Mark in the mix, and it's just kind of like giving that feeling and that thought that most brown children feel in school. And I don't think I realized that's what it was until you just said it, Mark. That feeling of being unsafe, not feeling welcome, like you're just kind of here and kind of always walking on eggshells. And then you put, bring Mahea's passion in there and putting like some context to what it really was and what we needed. I'm just like, that is the perfect mix. Y'all, the Lord is good, okay? Because that was just the perfect way to merge that together to bring out the village method. So I'm so glad that it played out the way it did.
Yes, yes. And that's really the idea, right? The idea of when we had to choose a name, that proverb, it takes a village, is what kept coming back to us. This idea that it is a sharing. And when we look at, our community and our culture and our families, one of the things that and the strengths of us is when we are working collectively and we're not doing things in isolation. And as our love story progressed and we had children of our own, that was one of the challenges that we came into when our children went into public school, was finding resources for, we weren't rich, and finding after school care, and then looking around our community and seeing how many of our children just did not have enough access to the things that we needed and other people needed. So absolutely sharing and distribute, how do I say the word?
Distributing. Distribution.
That's the word I'm
passing out. Delivering.
Yes.
Pass it out.
Hooking up.
The hookup.
So I think you got, oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, so I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say our mission, that the Village Method and what the work that we do, the intent of our work is to partner with schools and community-based organizations to create spaces that are welcoming, safe, and culturally affirming for youth. Period. Right? That's our work. That's what we do. And I can elaborate on that, but it's really, that is the element that's missing in schools right now, is many students, I'm not going to say all, but many students, they don't feel welcome, safe, and culturally affirmed in school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why, like, I don't think you articulated perfectly. When I think about my own experience of just kind of being the only one in a lot of my classes, whether it be the school district is mostly white, or I'm now in honors and AP and advanced classes, which shouldn't be like that, but it's kind of like only a subset are encouraged to go, as opposed to, well, we see potential in all of these students, we want everyone to go on. So that feeling of like, you should be happy to be here and don't mess up when you get there. And so that's not a safe feeling. That's you're always anxious and
Right.
walking on eggshells. Like I just remember that feeling in high school. That's why I ran to an HBCU.
Mhm. Yes.
See? That's real talk. Like when we talk about feeling welcome, right?
Mhm.
Like where do you feel most welcome? Well, in your home,
Mhm.
right? Around your family, right? Whether it's with your parents, your grandma, auntie, or somebody, that's where you feel most welcome.
Mhm.
And what happens in schools is that institution creates an atmosphere where parents are not necessarily welcome,
Mhm.
where they don't feel welcome. And so if you eliminate parents from the equation, then that's why you start to see like, okay, well now I got to figure this thing out all by myself,
Yeah,
right?
that's good.
And so the idea, and there's data that to support this. I wish I could just say it off the top of my head, but there is data that supports. I'll share it with you later.
Yeah,
But
don't
there's
worry.
data that supports that when you have more parents involved in a child's academic journey, there's more success rates, right? Their behavior, it improves,
Mhm.
right? The grades
Mhm.
improve, their attendance and their punctuality improves. What are the things that schools focus on? Behavior, attendance, and grades. That's
Mhm.
really all they care about. Now
Yeah.
we care about that. Yes, we want to know that your behavior and your attendance and grades are good, but the village method really focuses beyond that. And we look at, does the child feel welcome and what elements are missing that would create an atmosphere where they wouldn't feel welcome,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Do they feel safe in that area, right? Where it's going beyond just the involvement of parents, but do those parents have agency in the school?
Mhm.
How many parents, for example, are part of school board? There's a school site council showing up to school board meetings. How many parents are a part of a body that makes decisions that have dollar amounts attached to it that actually influence and impact a child's experience in the school? When we look at that kind of data and we work with schools, we sit down, we actually do a full out assessment ourselves with the principal, but we dig into that information and then we report that back to them and say, well, look, you don't have any Black parents in school site council or any of these things. So
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons that could, impact behavior. If you're
Mhm.
trying to improve behavior, get more parents involved in these things. We can help you,
Absolutely. I
right?
love that.
Last I'll say with cultural expression, when we're looking at children not feeling culturally affirmed in the school, does the school only bring up what it means to be Black around Black History Month,
Mm.
Right.
right? And then when they do that, are they only talking about, well, y'all came from slavery, right? What is that? What is that conversation?
Mhm.
Do they actually support a child in their expression, in their language? I saw a paper that came out and it was a list of all the words that children can't say in the classroom.
I saw
And,
that.
right. And it had to do with it was basically all the things, all the ways that a lot of our Black youth speak naturally.
Mhm.
Right? Bruh. What's up, bruh? Like you can't say that in the classroom. You'll be penalized and you'll be get a demerit and other things because of your language, of how you talk around your home.
Mm.
Right. And so there are things that the culture of an institution does that are just by default anti-Black,
Mhm.
straight up racist.
Yep.
And so we go in and we assess that to try to figure out, well, what is the atmosphere? What is the environment for a Black child specifically? Right. And I guess the last thing I'll say is Black youth are the canary in the coal mine,
Mhm.
canary in the coal mine of public education. Right. And so if you know that analogy and you know that if the child is the canary, when the data looks bad for them, then that means that eventually it's going to impact everybody else in the same cave of
Mhm.
education. And
Mhm.
so when you start looking at data across the board, not just for Black youth, but for all youth, you start seeing that the same things that have been impacting Black youth since the passing of Brown versus the Board of Education is impacting other youth, Asian youth, Latinx youth, white youth, right? They're coming in and they're struggling with the same obstacles.
Mm.
And so those are the things that we try to bring to the light. And then we have programming to address those things and make it better.
Did you know that data-driven organizations were 19 times more profitable? 19. You heard me right. Perhaps you're asking, what is data-driven and how do I become one of those organizations? I'm so glad you asked. I want you to go take a quiz. It's a simple, quick quiz to help you assess if you are in fact one of those organizations. Head over to mogulbeginnings.com/data into dollars quiz now. That's mogulbeginnings.com. You can just go to mogulbeginnings.com and it'll show you the data into dollars quiz. Take it now. You'll see if you're on your way to 19xing your profitability. You're listening to Numbers Don't Lie on KCCR Cityscape. We hope you're enjoying the tunes and all the jams. Make sure you visit our website over at brownstoneworldwide.com to learn about all things Brownstone. You can check out Brownstone Living Magazine and all the great things that we have on the website, as well as the shop. You just got to head over to the website, brownstoneworldwide.com. Child, you had me going. My mind went 14 different ways because my brain initially went to like, well, that we always ask why, like, well, why don't you want to do why don't you want your Black youth to succeed? Like, I don't think at this point it's a mystery or a question that something's wrong with how we are teaching and how, I mean, just the school system in general, how teaches all children, it needs to be prepared. But then I thought, well, the why is, well, why fix it when you have a pipeline to send them a certain place? So my brain went so many different ways, but I did want to talk about those consequences a little more, about not fixing. So like our children, our Black children, have that. I'm sure, I don't know if our listeners are familiar with the phrase of pipeline to prison. Because I'm like, well, if why would you fix a system if you have this in place? Like that, you know what I'm saying? It's like, well, we don't want to fix it because we're gonna mess up what we got going on over here. So I just want to talk a little more about the consequences. And you also did bring how it not only just affects Black and brown children now, well, Black children, it's pouring over all children. And I think that's so important to mention that how you treat one group it's not going to stay contained. And I did want to just emphasize, like, stay there a little bit longer, because I don't think people really understand, because it's easy to say they and them and point the finger. But once it starts to hit your house, now there's a level of concern.
Right.
And I want us to be just kind of have that dialogue a little longer about, we need to be concerned when it's any child.
Right. Right. And and this part of, this season that we're in right now, post-pandemic, whatever that means, this idea of what we learned through the pandemic about ourselves, our communities, and really now I'm even thinking of really largely of this word humanity. The idea that as we create these spaces that in the beginning, we were thinking a lot about our culture, Black children, multicultural children. Our work is now drawing us into the larger and really speaking to what you're asking, Dr. Michele, around how does this impact, how does it support and impact the greater community, Black, brown, Asian, white. And what the word that just keeps coming back to me lately as we're in the classrooms is humanity. That when we really start to do this work and we're exploring topics around how we feel about ourselves, what we know about our history, what we know about our families and our culture, we start to notice that a few things happen. Other children want to join into this work. So we have a good time. Have a good time, and children pop in the door, and they're not Black, they're Latino, they're Asian, they're all these other beautiful shades, and they're asking, can I join? And so we got used to that over the years, but families often said, no, I don't want you to participate in the village method for whatever reason. I don't know. But this year in particular, we noticed that other children and their parents have now enrolled in our program. And as I didn't all the way know what to do with that in the beginning. Because it's like, but we're going to focus on African-centered programming. Y'all good with that? And
you're gonna learn about Imhotep. You're gonna learn.
But we're also going to focus on our academics. We're also going to focus on our dreams. We're also going to explore the arts, but it's going to center in Blackness. And what I'm seeing is that there's a craving for what it is that we offer, because what we offer centers on our humanity and understanding first and foremost that all of humanity begins in Africa. And when we start to think about, the diaspora as really not just a California Black folk thing, but it's a diaspora throughout Earth, how we move and how we roll throughout Earth, we start to see the commonalities in different cultures. And we start to see, oh, you like that too? That's what we do too. Oh, that's how your rhythm gets down. We have something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're noticing this year. That's a healing place. It's more healing centered. And also what we're noticing and what we've always said is we're not a prevention. We don't do a lot of preventative. I'm sorry, we don't do intervention programming. We do preventative programming. So starting with youth from kindergarten to 12 and getting us seeing each other as our commonalities and our humanity, I believe is part of the prescription to what we are noticing in the world right now.
You should probably drill down a little bit on like what is intervention versus what prevention, because they might not know.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is when we come into places like schools and institutions, and we say we offer African-centered programming, the village method, and they see our team and they see a lot of beautiful Black folks in our team, and they see our pamphlets with a lot of smiling, beautiful Black children. For reasons that we'd have to dig into deeper later, people see and think, oh, you're an intervention program. So you're going to work with children who have severe learning needs, behavioral needs, children who maybe are on a path that educators are like, I don't know what to do with these children. And it's not to say that we won't work with this group of children. It's to say that if we're pouring in love and support and attention and wrapping around our children earlier before needs flare up, we actually won't need as many of these services. Now, we're still going to need special programming to think about our learning styles. We're still going to need things to speak to trauma and things of that nature. But when we are doing work that centers on love, that really centers on seeing each other, talking to families, home visits, building community among one another, we've learned that we start to find what we need within our group, within our village, within our spaces. And that's preventative in the sense that now we're not putting out fires of parents coming angry and upset because this didn't happen and blah, 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 because we've been talking already. We already sensed what the need was, and we've been working to address it. We've been building bridges with educators and teachers and things of that need. So we like to say that we are a preventative program. Interventions are still needed. The work that we do, though, focuses on centering in love. And as we do that, it helps our whole village, not just those children who are in our space, but the children who aren't in our space, the teachers who aren't in our space, the whole school district, perhaps, that we're partnering with to start to ideate and think on, how could we do this differently? What could it look like? Let's draw some inspiration from some of the best practices and things that the children are talking about in the village method.
Wow. That's awesome. And so that actually really leads to my next question. Because there is evidence, everything that you're saying, there's evidence and data to support for the nurturing of a child and bring the community around a child and their academic achievement. We mentioned the things that, schools are looking for, the get your butts in the seat and the grades and the graduation rate, all that great stuff. And clearly what the village method is doing is going to help with all that, but also the actual health of the child. So since we know that, and we know numbers don't lie, like there is evidence to support that this is a great way to teach and educate our children, what are then those challenges of getting your type of curriculum into the classrooms?
Numbers don't lie, but people do.
Ooh, I say that too.
And what happens is what we've seen is that an institution celebrates the things that it can control, right? And so a lot of institutions and public education, unfortunately, has been called by some a conveyor belt, that they're just a diploma factory, that they're giving students a high school diploma and they've done their job, right? And so when you look at data and you see that California, where we started our work, that 3, maybe 2 to 3 out of 10 Black students are eligible to even apply to a 4-year college when they graduate from high school, right? But in this same climate, we have high schools celebrating the increased number, the percentage of Black students that are graduating from high school.
That's good.
80%, 90%, 95%. They're graduating from high school. But the problem is, are they eligible to apply to a 4-year college? Even simpler than that. Can they read? Can they do math? More colleges now than ever before are really complaining and sharing that the developmental education, remedial education, that students need this, right? And so I'm sharing this because what happens is in the institution, what we say then is that a lot of mediocrity is being celebrated. Right?
No, that's real.
Right? At a low level, the bar is low. If you graduate, you've done it, right? And our children are being sent off into a world to thrive on their own or survive on their own, sink or swim, right? And when you look at data, you look at health, you look at the mental health of our children, you look at the financial status, look at the state of Black America, right? You look at not just education, but you look at just what's happening to our people. And if you tie that back to what could have been done differently in elementary and in middle school, in high school, what could have been addressed then didn't happen. And that's why those numbers have persisted in a poor way. That's why they've happened in a sad way. So getting back to your question, right? Like what is the challenge? It's when parents have agency, when voices that are typically not at the table show up and start sharing their story. What happens then? Right? What happens then when they say that, oh, well, you have this tutoring program over here, but I don't need it at 9 o'clock in the morning. I need it, in the evening. I need it between 5 and 6. Right? Or whatever the case is. Oh, well, you guys did this multicultural celebration during Black History Month, but there were no African dancers, right? There was nothing that actually celebrated Black history, right? And so, oh, you're gonna spend $1.8 million on such and such, but what in this dollar amount is being invested on supporting Black youth and family outreach and engagement? Where are the dollars being spent? School leaders oftentimes struggle then with that because their relationship is mostly with people who have shown up to school board meetings. If I were giving them the benefit of the doubt, their relationship is with people who are present and active and engaged in school site council meetings. So then when you suddenly start getting parents showing up and demanding change, then there's friction, right? And then who was the entity that inspired this change? The village method, right? It was us. So then what happens is the village method becomes the villain to the public institutions. The village method becomes the antagonist for a lot of these things. And instead, what we would want to be received as is an organization that creates a space where if a school district, a superintendent, whomever, is truly trying to change the trajectory of Black youth in their school, engage with us. If you're really trying to disrupt the school to prison pipeline, engage with us. Because over the last 10 years, we have implemented a formula for academic support and holistic enrichment that supports the thing that you say you want to do, right? And we can truly bring about change in a collaborative and in a partnership kind of a way, right? But that's, I would say, hands down, one of the biggest challenges is the shift of power from the institution to the parents, where we truly believe parents really need to have more power in these schools.
Oh, we're definitely going to have a part 2 because believe it or not, we done spent our time talking and I've enjoyed. It's okay because if you guys are willing, I would love to have you guys back to continue because there's more. I do want to talk about measuring success and using data to move forward, like as a springboard. So in the meantime, could you tell our listeners how they can find you?
Absolutely. Well, you can just send us an email, info@thevillagemethod.org. You can find us online also, of course, thevillagemethod.org. We didn't really mention it, but we have a college access or a high school success program called Scholar Prep Nation also that we've relaunched. And so that's scholarprepnation.org as well.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Numbers Don't Lie. I've been your host, Dr. Michele, and you can connect with me at mogulbeginnings.com and all things Mogul Beginnings on social media. That's MOGUL Beginnings. Have a great rest of your week and your day, and I'll see you guys next time. And don't forget to check out brownstoneworldwide.com for all